Hello and good morning, students. So, after our last class, we have started a new chapter, that is chapter 6, and we have discussed on combustion. Okay, today we'll discuss on what are the conditions necessary for combustion and how we can prevent fire. These things we will discuss in today's class. So, there are three conditions which are very important for combustion. What are these? We know what is combustion, right? To catch fire. So there are three conditions. These are: the first is the presence of a combustible substance. That means first of all, to burn fire we need something which can be burnt. For example, wood, petrol, diesel. We need these type of things. Instead of this, if we have rock, soil, these are not combustible substance because we cannot burn soil, rock, right? So we need a combustible substance, for example petrol, diesel, these things. The presence of a supporter of combustion. So what is a supporter of combustion? We know to burn fire we need oxygen, right? We need air. So we need a supporter over there. Then attainment of ignition temperature of the combustion substance. That means third is we have to give a source of fire to it so that it can attain the combustion temperature. That means the temperature of the system should go up to a certain limit, then only it will start the fire. Okay, there are these three conditions necessary for combustion are also called triangle of fire. That means these three combustion characteristics conditions together, when fulfilled, the fire gets burned. You can look into this diagram. The first is oxygen, which I told as supporter. Okay, next is combustible substance, for example wood. Look at over here, wood. Okay, and the third one is it is ignition temperature. That means a certain temperature you have to supply to it in the beginning, but you have to gain the temperature. After that it will start burning in complete form. Okay, so these are the main three characters or the conditions. We'll discuss each in detail. The first is combustible substances. The presence of combustible substances like paper, cloth, wood, LPG, petrol is necessary for combustion to occur. The process of combustion cannot occur without a combustible substance. That means if you want to burn something, okay, if you want to burn fire, okay, if you want to get fire, then what you need to do? You first of all you need some substance which are combustible. That means which you can burn. For example, paper, cloth, wood, LPG, petrol. Okay, these things are needed. Next is supporter of combustion. Something there should be there. Okay, for example like oxygen gas, which will support the fire. Combustion is a chemical reaction between a combustible substance and oxygen present in air to produce it. They're telling that combustion is nothing but a chemical process in which a combustible substance reacts with oxygen which is present in air to form heat. We know when we burn wood we get heat, and without air we cannot burn wood. We need oxygen for that, right? A combustible substance does not burn in the absence of oxygen. That means if there is no oxygen there will be no fire. Okay, the process of combustion continues as long as oxygen is present. Okay, only if oxygen is present the process will continue. When the supply of oxygen is discontinued or cut off, combustion stops. Okay, if the supply is discontinued, then that means when there is no oxygen there will be no fire. If there is oxygen there will be fire. Let it be very clear. Okay, oxygen present there will be fire, no oxygen no fire. I think it is clear to you. Next, attainment of a ignition temperature. This point is very important. Okay, wood and coal are fuels, but they do not start burning on their own, right? You want to burn wood or coal, they are very good sources of energy, right? You can burn them easily, but they will not start the burning by their own. You have to give them some source of fire. They burn when they are heated with a flame of a candle or Bunsen burner to a certain minimum temperature. That means the wood or the coal will start burning whenever you will give them certain external heat or source of heat, such as fire from matchstick, okay, or your candle. These things when you will provide, then only this wood or coal will start burning. Otherwise by their own it will never start burning, right? The lowest temperature to which a substance must be heated to catch fire and start burning is called the ignition temperature. What is ignition temperature? The minimum temperature, the lowest temperature on which a substance will start burning is known as its ignition temperature. Now, if I give you one paper and one wood, tell me whose ignition temperature will be low. The answer will be pepper, because if you give a slight amount of fire to the pepper, pepper will start burning, right? Just take a matchstick and burn it near the pepper, pepper will burn. But with the help of one matchstick, you may not be able to burn a wood. To burn a wood, you need some more fire for a longer period of time. But pepper is more combustible substance than compared to your wood. And as it is taking less time, that is, for pepper the combustion temperature is less, that is the ignition temperature is less, and for wood the ignition temperature is more. The ignition temperature is nothing but the temperature, the amount of temperature you need to provide to a substance to start burning process. As simple as that. The substances that have very low ignition temperature can easily catch fire with a flame called inflammable substance. Okay, inflammable substance. So those substances which have low, that means the requirement of ignition temperature, are known as inflammable substance. For example, LPG, kerosene, alcohol, pepper, fabric straw. So if you want to burn LPG or petrol, diesel, kerosene, pepper with minimum amount of heat, you can burn, right? You have seen that what I should say. In our LPG stoves, right, in our home, LPG gas cylinder stoves, there is somewhat some lighters are there, right? Some stone lighters are there. They produce minimum amount of fire for a fraction of second, and that fire leads to burning of the stove, right? That means this you got very minimum energy to burn, very minimum flame to burn. So these are known as inflammable substances. Okay. So we have one more topic named as firefighting. So first of all, before discussing this, what is firefighting? Firefighting is a condition where we fight, that means where we deal with the conditions after something catches fire. For example, there is a shop. If in this shop the fire catches in this shop, how we will prevent this fire, how we will stop this fire, and how we will help the person or the things which are inside the shop. These are known as firefighting. Okay. Fire at home, shops and factories can be very disastrous and often cause loss of life and property. This is very true, right? If fire catches something, fire is very dangerous, so it can bring a disaster and it will lose property and humans will die, right? Due to fire, many humans die. So fire should be brought under control and extinguished as soon as possible. So if in any place fire catches, so there should be some process, there should be some technique by which we can control fire and we can extinguish as soon as possible, right? So what is firefighting in short? It means to control and extinguish the unwanted fire. The fire which is catched in a shop is not wanted, right? We don't want the shop to burn. That means it is an unwanted fire. So to control this fire and extinguish it is known as fire fighting. Okay. Fire can be controlled by removing one or more of the conditions requirement for combustion to take place. So we can say that just now we have read that there are three conditions. First is we need substances that can be burned, right? For example, pepper, wood, coal, these things, cloth. Okay. Next is oxygen we need for burning, and third is a minimum temperature. So if we can remove any one of these three conditions, then fire can be stopped, right? Since when there is fire burning, right, if in a fire, if the fire catches, it is not possible to remove all the combustible substances. In a shop, if fire catches, there will be very n number of things, like there will be wood stove, wood stool, chair, right, wood table, these things, then plastic things, then there may be other combustible things, paper, cloths. So it is not possible for you to remove all the things. Next, so the firefighting will so the firefighting operation work mainly on two principles. The firefighting works mainly on two principles. The first is bringing down the temperature of the burning substance below the air ignition temperature. That means first we need to decrease the temperature. There are three properties we know. First we need to remove the there should be substance which can be burnt. Next oxygen. Third is temperature. So first thing we can do is we can decrease the temperature below their ignition temperature, and third is cutting the supply of air. So the second is cutting the supply of air. That means in one process we can decrease the temperature, and the next we can remove the air supply. Okay, different types of fire extinguishing techniques are there which we'll discuss later in this chapter. Today we will discuss as water as fire extinguisher. So we know whenever there any fire incident, mm, the fire brigade team comes and they throw water on the fire. Why they throw water? Because of the first point we have just read that we need to decrease the temperature. Which temperature? Ignition temperature below their what temperature? Ignition temperature below the ignition temperature. We need to decrease the temperature. Okay, so if you supply water, if you throw water on the fire temperature will rise below the ignition temperature, right? The temperature will decrease. If the temperature will decrease, there will be no more fire. So we supply water. In a fire breaks out our house, okay, or in our neighborhood, the first thing we must do to call fire service by dialing 101. So if there is any fire, dangerous or serious fire incident, we should dial 101 for help. There is a government registered fire brigade number. When a fire brigade arrives, the firemen extinguish the fire by throwing water under pressure on the fire. Whenever fire brigade comes, they throw water on the fire, right? When water is thrown on fire, it cools the combustion substances below its ignition temperature and prevent the fire from spreading. The water, okay, when heated by fire forms water vapor. So what is they telling there? So whenever fire brigade comes, they will be throwing water. If they throw water, the ignition temperature will be decreased, and what will happen? The water when heated by fire forms water vapor. Okay, it will form water vapor that surrounds the combustible substance material and helps the cutting of the supply of air. So it will works in two ways. First, you are giving water. It is preventing the fire initially, decreasing the combustion temperature, or what temperature it was? Ignition temperature, right? And the next thing, the water is there, fire is also there, room is high temperature is there. So the water will be heated and it will form water vapor. Water vapor will then rise and will cover all the substances present in the room. For example, there is a wooden chair. Water vapor will go and it will sit, or it will fix to the water chair. It will cover the chair and it will not allow any water to pass. Any air to pass. That means it will block supply of air. So the fire gets extinguished. Thus, water is very efficient way of fire extinguishing. So we know now water works two way. First is ignition temperature will decrease, and next is it will block the supply of air. So in these two way it will deal with it. I know today's topic is a bit difficult, but it's interesting. Try in your home, read this. If you face any problem, you can ask me. There are some more techniques such as fire extinguisher or sand techniques or different other techniques. We shall discuss all in next class. Okay, so this is for today. Thank you, students. But one thing I would like to add over here is read this topic at home first, or else it will be difficult for you. Okay, or you may do one thing: first watch this video, then open your book, read this once after this class only, and after reading once again, if you face any problem, watch this video. I think it will be clear to you. If then also it is not clear, then ask me. I'll try to explain it to you again. Thank you, students.